Hey, everybody, welcome. This is David Gertler. I'm CEO and co-founder of Treble. I really appreciate your participation and your interest in hosting effective networking events. I've got, as I mentioned a few seconds ago, just a little bit of an overview that I'd like to share with everybody. And then after the overview, go into just a little bit of a demonstration of what it means, because sometimes it really helps to understand it by seeing it. And then I'll follow up at the end with just some tips and tricks and things that I've learned over the about 2 decades of hosting both physical and in-person meetings. So let's jump in. Hopefully everybody can see my screen, and I'll get it started. First, you're probably on this webinar because you lead a business networking organization and you've tried to use Zoom to host a virtual networking event, only to discover that Zoom isn't really a panacea. And you're looking for a better way to create value for your members. The good news is, while this is a relatively new problem for most, we've studied this problem for years and we've got a really great solution. As I mentioned, I've been hosting events probably for about 20 years, and I've studied it very, very thoroughly. Like, how do you make events, whether they're in person or virtual, more meaningful, more impactful for people? So almost all in-person events feature some sort of networking opportunity, right? It's a time that enables people to meet or talk with each other. And the natural inclination for most in this, terrible COVID environment is to try to replicate it using video conferencing, but it just doesn't work. Even if you have breakout rooms, it's not the same, right? People are dressed very casually. They've got things going on in their home. And then if you try to have, 20, 30, 50 people on a call, it can be really distracting and noisy and really hard for people to truly network. So, how do you do something a little bit better? So we've done a lot of research, and I'll refer often to this. And what we found was that there are 12 reasons that people ultimately network, and they broadly fit into two main categories. People are either looking for business opportunities, new clients, new deals, new customers, something for my business, or maybe more personal, they're looking for something for their career. Maybe it's a new job or a mentor.
You can talk to me anytime.
I'm going to mute one or two folks here. Just pause that, sorry. So either they're looking for their business or they're looking for their career. And sometimes if they're a small shop, a lawyer, an accountant, a wealth manager, a marketing person, sometimes they're one and the same, right? So understanding what people are looking for when they're trying to network is a really important aspect. And if you think about it, if you've been to a networking event, and I'm sure most of you, if not everybody has, they typically go like this, right? You walk into the room and then you kind of scope around and you say, who do I know here? Is there anybody that, I can talk to? And usually you'll walk up to people that you already know and you'll make small talk. Hey, what's going on? Have you been? What's new, etc. But there's really very little chance of having value being created because it's a comfortable thing. You're just going there to chat with that person rather than try to find a business opportunity or advance your personal career. And every so often, the brave folks will walk up to a new person or a group of people. And having been a shy, introverted math geek for most of my life, that was always really hard for me. How do I walk up to 3 people that are in conversation? Maybe they're good friends and they're not looking for somebody to intrude. But when I get up the nerve, I walk up and I'll kind of interrupt a little bit. And again, it's mostly the small talk, hi, where do you work and what's your job and what do you do? And things like that, and never really learning enough about the person to find that valuable way to connect, right? How do I find enough information that I go, oh, now I know what I can do to help them or they can help me, etc. So if you think about it from a pure, logistic perspective, the challenges and opportunities for these networking events, whether they're in person or virtual, people who show up, they're only going to meet, chances are they're only going to meet a few other people. And again, in a large setting, you'll walk up to maybe 3 or 4 people during a half an hour happy hour, or maybe if you're really outgoing, you'll meet up, 5 or 6 people, right? And it's hard to know who, right? Who should you walk up to? Maybe you end up talking to somebody that has, interesting perspective or different life, but no real business needs to you. It's also hard to know what to talk about. Again, it's very easy to fall into the small talk about, topics of the day, weather, or other kinds of things. But what you really want, what you go there for is to really try to figure out, is there a value here for me or not? So what you're trying to do ultimately when you're in these networking opportunities is figure out really quickly two essential things, right? Who should I talk to and what should I talk about, right? How do I find value? And the story I like to tell is that several years ago, I was at a networking event, and during the introductions, they had a formal introduction section. They said, you have 30 seconds to answer 3 questions. One of the questions was, what do you need? And at the time, I was Chief Operating Officer of Social Solutions. I didn't really need anything. But I happened to mention that I had a daughter who was a freshman in Virginia Tech, and one day she's going to look for an internship. And sure enough, there were 6 people in the room who said, hey, I'm hiring. I know somebody. Get me her resume. And she landed this amazing internship. And it got me thinking, like, had I not asked, it never would have happened. And I'm not going to just walk up to some stranger and say, hey, I'm looking for an internship for my daughter. Hey, I'm looking for an internship for my daughter. So how do you codify that? How do you build a system that allows me to know who in this room can help me? Who can I help? Or maybe who in this room knows somebody that can help me, or vice versa. So imagine a solution like this. You walk into a room, and then you can quickly look around and have 3 critical pieces of information about every single person that's attending. A brief background, a quick understanding of what they can do to help others, how they've helped others in the past, and a couple of wishes, a couple of things that they're looking for their career or for their job. So if I knew those 3 things about everybody, I can just quickly say, oh, I know how to help you. Oh, I can introduce you to so-and-so. I've been to so many events. I'm sure many of you have as well. And it's like, there might be people who, they're wonderful people, but I have really no connections with, or there's no easy way for me to help them, but maybe I can help somebody else. And this opportunity to really unlock those touch points, those opportunities for me to help them, to me to understand who they are, and to work with them, and vice versa, that's essential. That's what Treble's all about. So with that, I'm going to quickly switch gears and show you a quick demo of what Treble is doing right now, and how we've hosted a number of different organizations. I got to grab screen 3. And here we are. So typically what we do, whether you're in person or in virtual, is meetings are typically run using our software called Meeting Manager. And essentially, it gives you a lot of capabilities that you're looking for. You want to create an agenda, and most of the agendas will work with a number of chambers of commerce or tech councils or alumni associations or even professional societies, right? They'll have, just a quick welcome. They'll jump into some success stories. Then they'll do the introductions. We call it Treble time. And then there might be, the speakers or a panel discussion, or maybe there's an update of some information, et cetera, followed by some Q&A and some wrap. So you'll see that, with Treble, we provide a lot of different tools, and I won't go into all the details, but, essentially most of the meetings host this kind of an agenda. So we have this agenda capability in here. What are the critical things that if you're a leader of a business networking group, one of the most critical things that you want to do, I think, is create a culture of collaboration, a culture of helping others. We call it a altruistic business networking culture. And the way that you do that is many different things, right? It's repeated behavior and expectations. And one of the things that we like to do is share success stories. So at any given event, we'll almost always focus a few minutes of success times, right? Let's call out and recognize people who've helped other people within the community. So for example, here, I'll just pop, and this is an example from a few weeks ago. Catherine is an attorney. Lauren ended up meeting somebody named Nate who was looking for an attorney. So Lauren made an introduction to Catherine as a potential client for Catherine. So Catherine posted it as a success story. So we just want to recognize Lauren. Hey, great job, Lauren. Thanks for helping out Catherine. And if you do this, and at every meeting, you call out a couple of success stories, what you start finding is that people come into the meetings thinking, hey, I need to help others. I want to help other people. And if you start doing that, you start finding that more and more people are putting others first. And by doing that, you tap into this power of reciprocity, people helping each other. So we think that's a critical part of the formula for any meeting, whether it's in person or virtual. Make sure you have time to call out a few success stories and encourage your members, hey, post it, whether you're using Treble or other tools or just email or what have you. Make sure you make some time to let people know about the success stories. Then the real heart of it is this member profile. So everybody that you have in your organization could be in Treble, and all you do is just type their name in here, and I've got mine already queued up. And if you view their profile, you'll see here's their information. So what we typically recommend, whether you're in person or virtual, spend some time up front letting each member introduce themselves. And depending upon the number of people you have and the number of breakout rooms, you can go from 30 seconds to 2 minutes. Again, probably the sweet spot is about 45 seconds to a minute, right? Depending. But if you tell people, hey, you've got 45 seconds to explain your background, how you can help others, and what are your wishes? What are you looking for? It becomes it's sort of like a smorgasbord. People refer to it as kind of a speed dating, but it's more like, I think of it as a smorgasbord. I'm able to sample everybody in the room very quickly. And I always take notes. You'll always see me writing down notes because I want to remember who said what, how do I help that person, look for ways to make those connections. One of the other neat things that we put in is a little shot clock. Again, I've been doing this for about 20 years. And I noticed early on, whenever I would tell people, hey, you've got a minute, explain, talk about yourself, etc. There were some people who would start out by saying, well, I was born in a small town, and like, well, we've only got a minute. We need to be respectful. So we put this little shot clock in, and I put a 5-second timer on it for me, just so you can see that when I click on it, let's see, did it not come through? There we go. Right. Sorry, there's a little delay. When the time runs out, the person will get a little visual cue. Thanks for sharing. The background, fades away a little bit, etc. So it's just an extra indicator. And that's one of the things a lot of the organizations that we work with, they love that because it makes the facilitator's job a little bit easier, saying, hey, we're giving everybody the exact same amount of time. And you can, reload the clock to whatever time that you want. The other nice thing is, I can just quickly, if I know who's going to be attending or have a rough idea who's going to be attending, I can just preload. You'll see I've got a tab loaded for several people. And then each person, I've given a clock timer for 1 minute, and I can change that. But I can just go from Jeff to Eric. And when Eric's done with his intro, I can go to Lauren. And when she's done with her intro, I can go to the next person. And we even have like a guest account here so that when, somebody wants to participate or shows up on your call and they don't have a profile in Treble, that's fine. We can still give you the blank format and say, hey, you've got your 30 seconds or you've got your 1 minute or what have you. Set the timer and tell them, hey, answer those 3 questions. What is your background? How do you help others? And what are the wishes? What are you here for? What can what is it that you're looking for that you can let people know? So again, Treble's got so many other tools, but this meeting manager is really the thing that's, unfortunately, due to the COVID environment that we all live in, something that's really taking off. Tons of organizations, I do demos constantly for organizations right now because they are looking for a better way. And so this is the first thing we show them. Hey, if you set up, and depending upon how many people you have in the room, if you have maybe 75 people and you use, for example, Zoom, you can leverage their breakout rooms to cluster into smaller groups of maybe 10 or 15 people, and then give everybody 1 minute. So at the end of 15 minutes, each person in that room has had a chance to introduce themselves, hear about others. If you want, you can reconvene and reshuffle people, mix them again into groups of 10 or 15, do it again, or just go back onto the regularly scheduled program, the rest of your agenda. So that's just a quick and dirty of what the meeting manager component's all about. And again, there's so much more that we can show on Treble, but I wanted to focus just on that for the time being. For the remainder of our time, I wanted to go back and talk a little bit more about some tips and tricks of things that we've learned that can help. And then I'll open up for some general discussion as well. And let me find, did I lose the, oops, let me try this again here. Yeah, sorry guys, let me try this sharing again. And for some reason, it's not letting me share. There it is. Cool. So let me move back on to some tips and tricks, and then I'll open up to some questions, right? So to prepare for meetings, whether they're physical or virtual, obviously, you pick your date, get your speaker panel, and send the invitations to members, things like that. And then really, if you encourage people to share their profiles, again, part of the reason that we built Treble was specifically because over the years, we wanted people to interact. We wanted people to learn just enough about others that would whet their appetite and say, oh, hey, so-and-so, you mentioned this, right? So we used to do it, believe it or not, using PowerPoint. Hey, fill out your profile in PowerPoint, and then we tried to put together a big PowerPoint deck and then share them with everybody in the room and flip through really quick, et cetera. But obviously, it's so much easier. We built Treble specifically for this purpose and built in the shot clock, et cetera. And again, if you end up wanting to do that, that's great. We've got lots of tutorials. We've got videos that will help you get started and help your members get started, teaching about posting wishes, et cetera. During the actual Treble time, during the introductions, as I mentioned briefly, it's super important to encourage people to take notes. I was on a call last night with a networking organization, and they didn't use Treble. That's fine, but they did do some introductions. And what I noticed, which is I think very common, is people nervously wait their turn, then they speak for their minute. Some people didn't really get across what it is they do or what it is they're looking for. It was kind of odd, right? Some people will just kind of ramble. Other people will just say, I'm a lawyer. It's like, all right, great. What kind of law? Are you looking for clients? You're looking for a new job? It wasn't clear to me. And almost without exception, and this is true when I've been in physical meetings as well, I rarely see anybody taking notes. And I've got a really good memory, or at least I used to have a good memory. And I could usually remember who said what and, follow up with different people. But if you're not taking notes, if you're not, saying, oh, so-and-so mentioned this, I want to follow up with that person, or, hey, I know how to help that person, then why are you there? And that's a real opportunity for improvement. That's one of the nice things about using Treble. All the information is there. So after the event, people can still go back and look up, who was it that mentioned that they're looking for a client, or who was it that mentioned that they need a new job in marketing, et cetera. So encourage your folks, take notes, be an active listener. You're looking for ways to help other people. I used to say, the real magic occurs after the call, right? And I still believe that. During the call, like a smorgasbord, right? You're sampling all the different people, but the real power of the network comes in afterward, where you reach back to the person and say, hey, I noticed that you were on that Treble event the other night. You mentioned X, Y, and Z. I know somebody, let me help you. Or do you have some time for a coffee? I wanted to pick your brain, et cetera. So just showing up to a networking event is necessary, but not sufficient. What you really need to do is encourage your members after the event, reach out to people, talk to them, and try to build those relationships. The third thing to encourage members to do is to help other people first. When I was an introverted math geek, which I'm a recovering introverted math geek, what I learned very quickly was you don't get anywhere if you simply ask for stuff all the time, right? If I walked around and say, hey, I'm looking for a job, here's my resume, can you help me? Can you help me? Can you help me? People grow tired of that, and it really doesn't get you anywhere. But if you consider that networking is building relationships for long-term mutual benefit, which is so different than what most people think of when they think of, oh, networking is LinkedIn. I post stuff and I tell everybody how great my company is and I, self-promote, et cetera. But if you think about networking as a way to build relationships that become valuable over time, that I can call somebody and say, hey, I need a favor, or better still, somebody who I've done so much with over the years calls me up and say, hey, David, I was thinking about you the other day, and I know somebody that would be great for this to help you with that. That's where you want to get to. And that only occurs if you have this track history of helping other people. many times people post something, post a wish on Treble, and the first thing they'll say to me is, "Hey, I posted a wish yesterday. Nobody's helped me find that $10 million job." Right? That's great. How often does that happen in real life? That's my first question. And second question I almost always ask is, who have you helped? So the human nature that I've learned from these 20 years studying this is that if I help somebody first, and it could be something simple, it could be, help them, with a resume, or it could be help them with an introduction to somebody, or introduce them to a good networking organization. But if I help them first, more likely than not, they say thank you. And that's almost always followed by, what can I do for you? So rather than trying to force them, hey, I'm looking for this, right? If I say, hey, what are you up to? How can I help you? And I get to know the person and look for ways, and I might not be able to solve their problem immediately, but I can come back to it down the road. That creates the beginning of this relationship that is super powerful. So, if you encourage your members to tap into reciprocity, helping others, look for ways to help others, and be really sincere about that genuine, urge to try to help them with their issues, then they're much more likely to reciprocate. Again, other things after the event, encourage your members to share success stories. For organizations, there are tons of organizations, and there are more networking events that you can attend, whether virtual or physical, than you can possibly participate in. So trying to build that sense of culture comes down to letting people know that when they have a success, when somebody has helped them or they help somebody else, sharing that with the rest of the organization, with the rest of the members, is a great way to try to build that sense of culture and expectation, and just encouraging people, use Treble or whatever mechanism you want to share the success stories, because it will just become this virtuous cycle that builds onto itself. Other thing that we recommend is, many times people can't attend every single event. And with Treble, right, we allow members to post wishes even if they don't attend events, or maybe I attended this month, but I missed last month. What's nice, and we encourage you to encourage your members, tell them, look through all the members' wishes. You can quickly scroll through, and Treble has a lot of different sort and filter capabilities. So if you're looking for an intern, you can say, is there somebody in the network that has a son or daughter that's looking for an internship? Or if you're looking for a board appointment or a speaker, right? So you can sort and search. But we encourage this idea of, at least once a week, tell your members, hey, try to find at least one or two wishes of people that can help. And third thing, encourage people is, update the wishes, right? Things change. Obviously there are a lot of people who say, I'm a marketer, I'm a lawyer, I'm an accountant, I'm a wealth manager. I'm always looking for clients, and that's fine. Those wishes, we call them permanent wishes, right? They're just always there. But one of the most interesting phenomena we've observed in the last few years is this, power of the third wish, right? Usually the first wish is that, I'm looking for a $10 million client, or I'm looking for a great new job as vice president of X, right? And those come, but they're rare. I mean, once a year, once every few months, maybe, if you're lucky. But the second wish and the third wish, those are things like, the story I told about my daughter with the internship, right? Throwing things out like, oh, I'm open for a speaking engagement. Oh, I happen to be looking for a part-time, person to help with social media. Putting those wishes out, those happen. And about 3 weeks ago, I posted a couple of simple wishes, my third wishes per se. And believe it or not, within 2 days, I was inundated with people saying, hey, I know somebody I can help, etc. And so it's really powerful. So telling people, yeah, it's great to post that number one wish, but don't forget, post those other things and look for those small little wishes so that others can help you, you can help other folks. Last little bit before I open up for some general discussion is leveraging Treble's dashboard. So if you are if you're an organization within Treble, we provide great tools, and we encourage the organization to take advantage of all the various tools that they have, including our dashboard, which has things that show the number of introductions that are being made, the number of referrals, the number of wishes, the types of wishes, how many people are looking for jobs, how many people are looking to hire, how many people are looking for a board position or a speaking opportunity. So use those tools to then send back, excuse me, send back into your organization to let people know, hey, if you're not tapped into our community, if you're not leveraging the relationships within our community, you're missing out because there's real activity here. And that's just a really powerful message, especially in these days and times where we can feel so overwhelmed and so isolated at the same time, to let people know there's real stuff going on. By the way, just as a side note, Treble is radically different from Facebook and LinkedIn and all the other platforms. We don't sell data, we don't share data. Users' data is their own, and if they decide they don't want to share data with anybody, that's their privilege. And so we balance this idea of how much information the leaders of an organization see versus how much information the individual members see. And at the end of the day, it's all up to the individual members. If they don't want to share anything, they don't have to share anything, and there's no way to pierce that privacy. So last piece is, sharing this kind of information out, promoting the various networking activities, letting people see that, there is activity, there are people that are helping others within your community, is just a really strong message that, again, goes back to this idea of building this expectation and building this culture by showing and demonstrating that there's real networking activity, that people are helping each other and people are leveraging the network within your organization to find the jobs that they're looking for and their career pursuits, or their clients, etc. So with that, I'm going to say thank you and then open it up for some questions or other discussions, whatever's on folks' minds.